You are listening to the Chompcast, the official podcast of Sword Chomp. Remember, you can always go to swordchomp.com. You can find all the places our podcast is available for download. But if you're listening to the show right now, that means you found us. So, welcome to the madness that is the Chompcast. Very special madness today, because it's a very special holiday episode. It's a holiday in the States, and the holidays are all about spending time with family. But my Sword Chomp family wanted nothing to do with me. But that's okay, because our good friend, Rich Meister, who writes for Destructoid.com, is joining us instead, the Maestro. How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm here. I'm seizing control of the Chompcast. Just like the Ultimate Warrior taught me all those years ago.
This is a takeover.
Yeah,
I see how it is.
This is a hostile takeover.
It's like that relative. Yeah, I see how it is. It's like that one relative that hijacks the conversation at the dinner table on Thanksgiving. Honestly, they wanted to spend some time with their family, but
selfish, am I right?
I mean, come on. I thought I was the only family that mattered. Seems learning things every day, but in my world, it's always churning with new polls and new things to talk about, and this and that, and then we're like, yeah, let's get Rich on. You can do a special sort of podcast, so this will be fun. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
I am ready.
You are the Maestro, the commander of words. I am General Mountain Time here from Montana, and as my name implies, my nickname, General Mountain Time, I command an army of weak and dying sperm, thanks to my endless intake of Diet Mountain Dew.
That sounds right. Yeah.
I've transferred from Diet Mountain Dew, though, to Dr. Pepper 10 Rich, and I'm telling you, there's no going back. Do they sell that in New York?
Yeah, they definitely did at a point. I had no idea that still existed.
Oh, it does. It does. So I used to put up pictures of it as a joke, and like a lot of our followers would message me and be like, I can't even get Diet Dr. Pepper 10 in my state. And I'm like, what? I didn't know it was like such a hot commodity, but
apparently I haven't seen it in a long time. Like, I just kind of assumed that they gave up on that.
No, it exists, and if they ever got rid of it in my town, I'd have to just order it by the hundreds from Amazon.
Yeah, I bet I could totally just go on Amazon and get them to bring me a ton of Dr. Pepper 10.
Yeah, you probably could. It has changed my life, and I can't stop drinking it. So maybe my sperm count can revive itself.
Yeah, Dr. Pepper 10 is just weak enough that it's kind of like coming back to life, but every time you take a sip, it's like smashing it to the floor. Yeah. The sperm aren't dying, but they're like severely. They're really like discombobulated, disoriented. They're in pain.
Yeah, It's it's a different kind of pain. That was my favorite, like, stupid middle school rumor. The kids out around telling you Diet Mountain Dew destroyed your sperm. It's like, I don't know. Who knows? Who cares?
Like, yeah, whatever.
I tell you, I drank that shit for like 5 times a day for years and years and years, and I had a baby, no problem. So it didn't do its job for me. But yeah, so there's a lot of. I want to do like a fun rundown of stuff that we're because this time of year in the gaming world is kind of like. I don't want to say it's like homework, but it's like the crunch, the game of the year crunch, right?
Yeah.
And so I was thinking there'd be a fun way to run down some stuff we've been playing, catch up with you, and then we'll get to the topic of the show and polls and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of stuff lately. I know this is a big thing we've been talking about. The big VR thing has been comical to me because, I thought VR was pretty much all but dead, and then I just see people talking about it all the time now because of the Black Friday deals, and Astro Bot and Moss are packaged together. It's weird, right?
It's weird, and I don't think I ever thought it was dead. It was just kind of like, there's really no big software at the moment. But all of a sudden, I feel like there's a bunch of shit falling on our laps. Like you said, Astro Bot is great. I have been playing a ton of Tetris Effect.
You and that Tetris Effect. So what is the
good.
appeal of? Yeah, tell me the appeal of that for you.
Okay, I will say first, I just really like Tetris, and this is a really good Tetris. It's really nice looking, and then it's on the level with like Rez. I mean that's who made it. It's the spectacle of it. You go into VR and there's all these like particle effects coming at you and lights, and the music's amazing. The board like changes colors. Like I did a board last night where all the Tetris pieces were like little gears and cogs, and like as they smack together, you get like a nice like sound effect of like gears grinding, and it.
That's cool.
It's cathartic.
So it's It's weird to think of Tetris as being some sort of like a sensory overload kind of experience, because Tetris was always like, for lack of a better word, very sort of like antiseptic and stale, just like blocks falling, change them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mean that as an.
But
as
that's
an
why I
insult.
think this is such a good idea, because it adds like this sort of weird flavor to it, and Tetris is such an easy on point. I think like objectively, Tetris is a perfect video game. I think everybody's familiar with Tetris, at least to some extent.
Yeah, that's true. Who hasn't played a lot of Tetris when they were a kid? My mom played Tetris like fucking crazy on Super Nintendo, man. I used to play Tetris for hours and hours. I need to try it. I need to, get out of my comfort zone and try it, because I'm just, I'm not anti Tetris. It just doesn't really sound appealing. But everyone says that it's so appealing, so I'm like, all right. Was it on a Black Friday sale or no?
It was not. I paid the full $40 for it.
Woo! That's a lot. That's a lot of money for Tetris.
It's a lot of Tetris.
That's a lot of Tetris. Did you get a chance to try Astro Bot?
Very limited time. I intend to dive more into that a little bit, but I kind of want to hear you talk about it anyway, because I don't think I got to play maybe 15 minutes, and I see the appeal immediately, but I am looking forward to spending more time with it.
Like, you're just sort of like a level or two in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the weird thing, right? Like, this game is like a miracle, like an accidental miracle. Like, I try not to.
And I felt like no one was talking about it until everyone was talking about it.
Yeah, it just got. I didn't hear. So the day I heard about it, Fish, a fellow podcast member, was here. By the way, I didn't get to do my joke. Let me back up a little bit. This joke is going to be way out of form now because I got too excited.
We're going to back up a couple of subjects.
I was gonna say, so normally, just in case it's your first podcast, I'm joined by my good friends Fish, Josh, and Shay, my cohorts, who decided they wanted to spend the time with their family, as we talked about earlier. How selfish of them. But I had this big joke that I was going to say, Josh is stuffing his turkey, Shay is stuffing something of the Tinder variety, and Fish is stuffing his vape full of some sort of weird razzleberry frazzle juice or something.
Fish and Gene Simmons are saving Santa from a pterodactyl.
Yeah, that's my favorite Christmas movie. Chris and Gene Simmons.
I always forget that Fish was in Kiss Save Santa.
Everyone does, and you know what? It's a travesty. But no. So shout out to my cohorts who are not here. But that just got me thinking about it, because I was gonna name drop Fish, and I was like, God damn it. But no, so yeah, he was visiting me for my wedding and stuff, and we were just sitting around, and we saw that Giant Bomb Quick Look pop up. And I was like, what is this game? Astro Bot? And they were talking about it, and they were playing it. And then I Googled it, and it had like a 90 Metacritic. And I'm like, what the fuck is this?
See, at first I thought this was insane. Ben Hansen likened it to the first time you play Super Mario 64. And I thought that was like insane hyperbole, but I kind of get it.
Well, that's for me, the best metaphor I would give people is it's sort of like, it gives me the feeling of the first time I played Super Mario 3D World, but way more immersive. Because as amazing as I love Super Mario 3D World, because I thought they used the 3D in very interesting ways for like depth and perspective, and that stuff works great for platforming. But it's still on a tiny little screen. The whole world is still distracting you. You have to make sure you're holding it the right angle, all that kind of shit, right? It's the same idea. It's just you're completely immersed in that goofy little world. So like little touches, like you might see a little door to the right, and you run all the way down some long corridor. Like it's that same sort of feeling. It's very immersive. But like the miracle to me is that they made like Sony things charming, like Sony sort of touchstones or elements, like when you punch something and it explodes into like the little triangle, square, X thing.
and they used the little mascot from the Playroom.
Yeah.
Like what? Like, and it just works. Like if you had apply this to anything else, it's insane. And I think games like Astro Bot and Moss totally got me in that headspace of like, oh crap, this is what we should be doing with VR. This is like some other subverted genre of like the 3D mascot platformer. Like, let's do that.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, because VR is already kind of a revolutionary technology to me. So like the only way you can really handle that properly, or like for the lack of a better term, and I try to think of a game that's pushing the medium forward, is to just utilize that that technology properly, and Moss and Astro Bot do that so well. But it's still a platformer though, and that's gonna have varying degrees to other people, which is why, as incredible as it is, I almost sometimes lean a little more toward Moss, just because I feel like that sort of experience. I've played games like Astro Bot, even though it's amazing.
Moss is the experience that can't happen without VR.
Yeah. How many games have you played where you control a tiny little mouse and you feel like you're a giant in a little world?
Several hundred.
Yes, every day I'm just crawling around little mouse hovels. It's just
that's
it's
my life, Morgan.
just talking to them in a fantasy world. You could see that.
I make them little clothes.
Yeah, oh, that sounds adorable. It's weirdly enough, Astro Bot's kind of the same idea though. You're an entity inside of another entity's world. Like, you are a larger robot controlling the smaller robot.
Yeah.
And kind of floating around. Even in Astro Bot, it's kind of weird. If you look at your body, you can see your floating like robot body. Sort of like in Moss, you can look into like a pool, like a reflection. You can see your like the reader or wherever you are. You can see yourself. But it's really enough. It's the same idea, right? It's like they're making you the vessel in control of someone else, and they're giving you less control of the camera. Because in Moss, it's stagnant, which is great. You just go wherever you want, and the camera doesn't move. It's just you looking around.
Yeah.
And in Astro Bot, it does move forward, and there are a couple sections where you're like on rails, but in general,
But you're still never losing that perspective.
Yeah. And that's one thing that drove Josh crazy about it, is because it was a collectathon, but the camera goes with you and doesn't go backwards. So it's sort of like the original Super Mario Brothers in that you can't go back. So he would get kind of irritated or have to kill himself if he feel like, let's say he missed a little bot that he wanted to collect, or some coins or something. So, which is kind of weird that because it's a game about collecting, but you can't go backwards. So I think
that might be tough designing around that. Like, I imagine they test the crap out of this stuff and find what's going to make people sick and stuff like that. And when you have a fixed perspective like that, I imagine giving you full range of movement could be problematic.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I think that, yeah. I agree. I think that they had to probably do it this way. It's just almost counterintuitive to some of the... It's not a big deal. It's just something that's worth noticing, because it is a game that's about collecting shit,
I wish I had more time for VR. I'd really like to go back and do Resident Evil 7 again.
Just for comparison, I will tell you this, because I played the DLC more recently, and I was
that
just
DLC
amazed.
is real good.
The punching, the alligators and the punching.
Yeah.
It's weird as fuck.
But it's
like
so fun.
Yeah, it is. It's weirdly fun and creepy, like creeping around in the swamp.
Especially that, spoilers here, that last bit where you get the umbrella EMP gauntlet or whatever.
The super fist. Yeah. It's the whole time you're just kind of this brawler guy, and it works in a weird way. And then at the very end, they sort of give you these big metal fists as the plot twist, and you just unleash.
I love that character though, because I like the idea of this Marine who's comes home and there's zombies everywhere, and he's like, "All right, square up."
Yeah, no, he's just like the grunchy old, grunchy. Ugh, he's grunchy. He's the grunchy old man.
That's my new favorite descriptive word.
He's like the grumpy old man who's just like, fuck it, I'll just punch these things in the face.
Is that
which kind of
Jack Baker, or is that the father?
It was it was the grandfather of, it was the Zoe, right?
Uncle, I think.
Uncle of, yes. And it's cool because they kind of carried on a little bit of what happened to Zoe, and Zoe was a character that grew on me in the game, because in some ways she was... It sucks because of all the horrible things that happened to your wife. In a lot of ways, Zoe was the only reason you survived that goddamn place.
And then I betrayed her.
Yeah, and then most people, betray her for Mia. So that's... It was kind of cool to kind of base it around her a little bit, I thought. But anyways, what I was going to say was that it just looked incredible, and it just reminded me that if you put the time into it, the AAA time, a lot of people complain about the VR resolution, and I'm not going to tell you that it can compete with the other ones, but what I've noticed is if the developer puts the time into it, like Moss or Astro Bot or the Resident Evil 7, it just, you can tell it just looks so damn good that it doesn't matter. So it's
when
really,
you're
to me,
building it around that hardware, it comes through. It comes through in the ways you want it to.
Yeah, it really does. But that VR is pretty incredible. And there's, anyways, so Astro Bot, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Me and my daughter played a lot, even though it's kind of tough for her to like, cause she's smaller. So like with little kids, sometimes it can kind of.